Hi everyone, I'm Jenn, Interpretation Officer at Royal Botanical Gardens. I'm back in Hendry Valley Nature Sanctuary to continue exploring the impacts of feeding wildlife in the sanctuaries. Today I'm joined by Jennifer Bowman, our aquatic ecologist, to learn about her area of expertise, the water world. Hi Jennifer. We met with our terrestrial ecologist, Lindsay, who noticed issues of wildlife feeding in the forests on land. Have you noticed any issues with feeding in the water habitats?
Yes, unfortunately we have. It's often mallard ducks and the mute swan, which are non-native species, and Canada geese that are the birds that hang around to get fed. This supplemental feeding of the waterfowl increases the number of individuals that can survive in a wetland, and it's not designed to carry that many individuals of those species. So it throws things out of whack. The food web is not balanced, and it creates increased competition with our other waterfowl species. The geese and the ducks, they end up hanging around under the boardwalk waiting for handouts, and they make the water really turbid. And if they weren't being fed, maybe they wouldn't be hanging around so much in large numbers, and maybe the water could clear up, and maybe the visitors would even get a chance to see one of the pike or the bowfin waiting around in the water with their young.
Is it actually harmful to feed the birds?
It's not healthy for the birds, no. The food of choice is often bread or popcorn or corn, and these items are high in calorie and low in protein and essential nutrients for the birds, so their bones don't develop properly. They can get this metabolic bone disease, which is a lack of calcium in their bones. They can get angel wing, which is improper development of their wings, which can restrict their ability to fly and can lead to death. So it's not healthy for the birds. They should naturally be eating insects that live in the water, other invertebrate species, plants, seeds, and these items, this varied diet will give them the nutrients that they need and all those minerals and vitamins to keep them healthy.
Now, one of the issues is algal blooms. Can you explain how supplemental feeding is related to these algal blooms?
When the ducks and the mute swans and those birds hang around, their feces accumulate and can go into the water, and it adds excessive carbon and phosphorus and nitrogen to the water column, which can spike an algal bloom. And the algae will restrict the light penetration into the water column, which will restrict the ability of other plants to grow. The submerged aquatic vegetation will not be able to grow if there's too much algae in the water column. And when the algae decays, it sucks the oxygen out of the water, and that can impact the other critters that are using the water, the invertebrates and the fish species.
In another interview, Lindsay also mentioned an increase in erosion. Now, all that soil must wash down into the wetlands. How does the sediment impact aquatic species?
So there's lots of sediment that comes down Grindstone Creek, unfortunately. We are no stranger to that. There's a lot of development in the watershed and less infiltration of the rainwater where it falls, so it washes down these small creeks and erodes them out, and Grindstone Creek can get very, very dirty after a rainstorm. So we've been rebuilding the creek channels to help contain that storm water within the creek and keep the marshes clear beside the creek. And this can help because the plants can't grow in dirty water. They need to get light penetration, and that extra sediment not only restricts the plant growth, it can also settle on eggs, fish eggs or amphibian eggs, and they can suffocate and not develop. And it also restricts the ability of some of the fish species to be able to hunt. So some of our fish species are predators, like our northern pike and our bowfin, and if they can't see in the water to find their food, then they're not going to do as well.
Now, RBG is an important habitat for a lot of different fish like salmon and catfish. How does wildlife feeding affect them?
So it's mostly through altering their habitat. Lack of plant growth, so the turbidity in in the water restricts the amount of plant growth that we have, and that directly impacts all of our fish species. When the algae dies and we have too much sediment in the water, it can reduce the amount of oxygen that we have because we don't have the plants producing that oxygen into the water column, and that can affect the fish species as well. Not only affecting their food sources, but also directly affecting them. Fish need a certain amount of oxygen in the water to survive, and if there's not enough oxygen in the water, they will have to move. If they can't get out of the area and they are in, they might die.
Does it affect amphibians at all?
Yep. The lower oxygen and the turbidity levels, they need the oxygen as well, and they need that habitat. Their eggs can suffocate just like the fish eggs if they get sediment covering them.
We've heard from Mallory about increased mammals in the landscape. Does that impact the water environment at all?
Yes, it does. We get lots of raccoons, an overpopulation of raccoons, and those raccoons, they like to hunt for certain food items. They do go after some amphibians, but they really like mussels, freshwater mussels. We have 11 species of native mussels at RBG. 3 of them are species at risk. And mussels are really important to wetlands. They have the ability to clean the water. They filter the water looking for bacteria and algae and detritus. That's what they eat. So they filter those items out of the water column, and that cleans the water up. And one mussel can filter 40 liters of water a day, which is amazing. And if we had lots of mussels, we'd have some pretty clear water in our marshes.
What's the best way that people can help waterfowl and the aquatic environment here at RBG?
Helping increase their habitat is one good way. All of the wetland species really need the wetland vegetation to be growing and healthy. It provides habitat for their food items and for their nesting habitat. So planting native species in your own backyard can help. You can help support the native insect populations, which helps our birds by planting native species. Increasing the infiltration in our watershed is also important to keep our creeks clear. So putting in a rain garden or a rain barrel on your property is also something someone can do. But one of the most important things I think we need to do is to teach our children how to interact with wildlife, and a healthy way to interact with wildlife, which is observing them and not feeding them. So there's lots of great hobbies that can come from this. So you can teach your kids how to watch birds and identify different species that we have, and just a different way to interact with them and enjoy them just through watching them in their natural habitat.
Now, RBG also offers volunteer opportunities. Can you share a little bit about those, ways people can get involved?
Yeah, so every summer we have marsh volunteer events where individuals are invited to come out to the wetlands and plant some native species and help increase that marsh habitat that we have. And that's another great way for people to get involved and to help out the waterfowl.
From the land to the water, nature truly is interconnected. And every interaction that we have with wildlife in our nature sanctuaries can have long-lasting effects. There are lots of ways that we can have healthy interactions with wildlife and enjoy nature. If you're interested in learning more, visit our website for ways that you can help. And if you're interested in joining us to volunteer, check out our website at rbg.ca. Thanks for joining us.